Does Resident Evil 9 live up to the hype? Let's find out. Welcome to Bite Size Bunny, my name's Tony, and today we're going to be talking about Resident Evil 9 Requiem. The story for Resident Evil 9 has been kept under wraps leading up to its release, so I'm going to be avoiding spoilers and keeping things as vague as possible, because honestly, I think this is the first Resident Evil game that has a genuinely great story. There have absolutely been some good stories throughout the series, but usually I think the Resident Evil franchise focuses more on delivering on the gameplay experience more so than the narrative one. And I think Resident Evil Requiem kind of redefines what we should maybe be expecting from the franchise moving forward. In this game, you play as two protagonists. We've got Grace Ashcroft, who's an FBI intelligence analyst that is sent on a mission to investigate this mysterious location that her mother was murdered at 8 years prior, with our other protagonist being none other than Leon S. Kennedy himself. Leon has also been dispatched to investigate the same hotel that Grace happens to be at, but in his case, he's investigating a missing police officer. One thing leads to another, and the two characters have their stories become intertwined as they are slowly uncovering the truth of what actually happened in Raccoon City. The campaign tells a surprisingly gripping story with a mystery that got its hooks into me. I was constantly fascinated to see where the story was going to go next as it continued to slowly peel back the layers on the truth behind the events that transpired in Raccoon City. And I'll be honest, I was kind of waiting for them to drop the ball and to go into full-blown wackadooville, as Resident Evil stories typically love to do. But RE9 manages to keep its story focused and is way more mature than I was expecting it to be. But simultaneously, it never loses its identity in the process. This is 100% a Resident Evil story through and through. I don't know how they did it, but it is one hell of an impressive juggling act. Speaking of impressive juggling acts, I can't believe they pulled it off, but they did. The setup of having two playable protagonists, with one of them being more action-oriented while the other is more horror-focused, actually works remarkably well in Resident Evil 9. Playing as Leon and Grace feels like you're playing two completely different games, but somehow they flow together phenomenally. Grace feels like you're playing your everyday person who's thrown into this horrifying situation, and if you make one wrong move, it can end up getting her killed, while Leon feels like an unstoppable tank of a man who can literally kick ass every step of the way. When you play as Grace, it feels like you're having to play everything more strategically and approach everything with a level of caution. Not to mention, it's terrifying as hell. But then what's really cool about this game is when you do play as Leon and you get to go through those same sections that you just played as Grace, you get to see the aftermath of everything you just went through. And then when you run into that same monster that's been chasing you for the last half hour as Grace, causing you all of that stress, you then get to drop them with just a few bullets from Leon's Requiem. What's even more impressive is in those moments, it never feels like it's undoing the journey you just went on with Grace. Instead, it just amplifies how freaking awesome Leon is and cements him as this horror action icon we all love. The atmosphere is spectacular and this game is gorgeous. There are some cutscenes where the lighting is top tier. It feels like it's straight out of an art house movie. Really, I don't have too many issues with Resident Evil 9. I do think it has some pacing issues, especially in the second half of the game. The game kind of has the same mission structure sprinkled throughout its campaign in the longer sections and missions of the game, and I really felt it kind of starting to drag at the start of the second act, with that gameplay loop being the innovative experience of, hey, you have these 3 specific locations to go to on this large ass map to find 3 parts of a key so you can unlock a door. It's not the most exciting thing to do, and it can definitely start to feel like a chore after a little while. Resident Evil Requiem also has 2 endings, and one of them is clearly the canon ending. It feels fleshed out and well crafted, with the other one feeling very half-assed and rushed. It is so abrupt and feels so incomplete that it made me wonder why why they even bothered including it in the final product. But outside of those gripes, I think this game excels at just about everything else it sets out to do. This is like the perfect marrying of Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 4. I think this is going to make a lot of Resident Evil fans very happy. Personally, this has quickly landed in my top 3 Resident Evil games. I would have a Resident Evil 4 Remake at 1, Resident Evil 2 Remake at 2, and then Resident Evil Requiem at 3. This game rocks, and I'm going to be giving Resident Evil 9 Requiem a 9.5 out of 10. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this review. Like, subscribe, and all that YouTube stuff. And what is your favorite Resident Evil game? I'd love to know.